When I talk about health and fitness, it really fires me up. And in today's podcast, I had the opportunity to talk about it in detail. Internet is cluttered with so much information about health and fitness that it becomes almost confusing as to what is right and what is wrong. So I wanted to talk to some specialists. Today I had Amit Chaturvedi and Shivangi Sarda, who are triathletes and have completed races like Ironman successfully. In this podcast, we've talked about how to begin and get into fitness and health. Mostly it's about running because it's the most accessible form of exercise that one can do. We've also talked about how you can improve your performance if you want to become a professional athlete. Along with the performance aspect, we've also talked about nutrition, supplementation, and most importantly, the mental and the psychological part of it. I have tried to dig deep in this podcast because it's so close to my heart and I find it really interesting. If you are a young person or if you are not a very young person, you must watch this podcast and listen to the stories that they have to share. I can vouch for it that by the end of this podcast, you will be a different person. Enjoy watching. Okay. Hi, guys. Welcome to the podcast. I'm really excited to have you both here. Um, Before we do anything, why don't we have an intro about both of you? Whoever wants to start.
Okay, so firstly, thank you for having us here. I'm Shivangi. I'm from Jaipur and I'm a strength and conditioning coach. And I do a few of ultra events. I've done an Ironman. I run regularly half marathons, full marathons, and I'm a national level basketball player.
Awesome. That's a
Hi,
pretty
Dipen.
impressive
you.
introduction. Please.
Hi Dipen, thank you for having us here. My name is Amit Chaturvedi from Jaipur as well. I've been a runner and a triathlete, a long distance runner and a triathlete for the last 10-12 years. And I am an exporter. I have an export business. That's my profession. And I run and I swim and cycle for my passion.
Super. Amit and Shivangi, thank you for coming here. I'm really excited because health and fitness is something that's close to my heart. And when I started this podcast, I always wanted to, before the podcast only, always wanted to meet somebody who's done stuff at that level, at the level of Ironman, real triathletes. We will be talking about what an Ironman is, what is a triathlon, but just to talk about this. And then I thought, since I've started the podcast, it would be great if I can actually meet real people, real triathletes here and ask all my questions. So here's an occasion. We are talking and we'll try to make this as a conversation between three friends and somebody who's a noob and trying to learn from experts. So Shivangi, before I'll start with you. Let's start with this morning. What happened this morning?
So yeah, I think this was the first time we met. And yeah, I was running and I saw you. And then, but because I was like doing a session. So session is like I had like a specific, like 2 kilometers at a certain pace. So yeah, sorry again for that, where I couldn't stop and have the conversation with you.
Actually,
Yeah.
I am just like you when I'm working out.
Yeah.
So, a lot of respect, first of all. Second thing, when I woke up this morning, because it was the podcast today, so I was excited and I did not have a good night's sleep. So I woke up a little tired this morning. I thought, kya kare yaar? Maybe I'll go for like a 5 or 6K run. And then started off with my run and, bumped into her. And I was running at like a tortoise pace and she went past like a trailblazer. So I was like, dude, आज तो 5 kilometer नहीं करना पड़ेगा. I gotta go farther. So I ended up doing 10.
Oh, that's
right?
awesome. Yeah.
Because I did not want to look like a chicken in front of you. so thank you for that. Okay, that's what I wanted to say about this. Okay, Amit, so my question to you is like, so you're a businessman by profession. how did you end up being a triathlete and Ironman?
It's a long journey. It didn't happen, at one step. Primarily because I was during my school and college lives, I was never into any kind of sports or any kind of activities at all. So there was zero activities relating to fitness throughout my school and college life. I got married, I had children. Until then, there were no sports whatsoever. The only focus that I had was I did not want to have a paunch, which is something that I just detested. So when I started putting on weight, I started playing tennis with a couple of friends and then started playing badminton. But then I had an injury. I had a nerve impingement at C5, C6 on my cervical spine. And the doctor forbid me from playing any kind of racket sports.
Okay.
Tennis or badminton or table tennis, whatever. Any racket sport, involves basically a jerk action from your right hand, and that was something that risked the injury to be aggravated further. So I was told no racket sports.
And
so
you were 37 years old?
I
when
was
this happened?
37 years old then.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's when I had to discontinue playing. It was a very short period when I played tennis and badminton. And then this injury happened. So I don't know what else to do. I was working from 10 till 7 in the evening. So there was not much time in the evenings anyway. But the easiest was to start running. And in those times, we used to watch these American movies where you saw people running, which was unheard of here. We didn't see it here, not in Jaipur for sure, nowhere.
Yeah.
So that is something that probably got me started. And I started running in the colony that we lived in.
Okay.
Just to stay fit. So I used to come back home from my work at 7 o'clock, go to my room, change and immediately step out and then go for a run. Started with a kilometer.
So this was in the evening
This was only in the evening.
Okay.
Yeah. In the evenings. So post work, before dinner, I used to go out for a run. And slowly the distance and the duration of my runs went up for a couple of months. And then I had my MBA roommate living in Gurgaon. So he was also trying to get into some physical activity. We spoke on the phone and somebody told us that there's a half marathon that happens in Delhi.
Okay.
It used to be called the Airtel Delhi Half Marathon back then.
Right.
This was 2011. It used to happen in October or November then. So in 2000, around end of 2010, we just, without any thought to it, we just registered for that event. And I landed up at Delhi after a few runs. So at that point of time, I had no idea of any of nutrition, hydration, training. The only thing I could do was to...
I'll break you
Yeah,
here
please.
for a second. So for those of you those people who don't understand the terminology, so how long or far is a half marathon and a full marathon?
So a half marathon is 21.1 kilometers.
Yeah. And that's half.
That is
Right.
a half
Right.
marathon. So I used to be running about 8-10 kilometers in my colony with some walk breaks in between. So I thought 21 did not sound impossible.
Right.
I can run
Right.
10, maybe I can increase it slowly. So I just the only training I did was it started increasing my distance, and then the hours I was running, and I managed to reach 14 one Sunday.
Okay.
After a lot of walk breaks, but I managed to reach 14. And then I said, I'll see how it happens in Delhi. And I landed in Delhi with this friend of mine, and then with zero knowledge of any of training specifications, any of nutrition. I was actually asking around, what if we feel thirsty? Where will we get water?
Right.
So we were told that there'll be 8 stations and you'll get water on the way.
Yeah.
So that's how it was. 2011 November, I ran my first half marathon. I managed to complete it somehow. And ever since that, I've been kind of hooked onto it.
So half marathon, and then when did you first get to know about Ironman?
A few years later, so when I knew about Ironman, I was already into full marathons by then. So a couple of years, 11 and 12, I did half marathons. A couple of more. I went to Hyderabad, did another half. Then I went to Mumbai. That used to be Standard Chartered Mumbai.
By that time, were you taking any coaching?
No, nothing.
Just running by yourself?
Yeah. Last few years, before my Ironman, I have never taken any coaching. So it was just increasing the distance, no technical tempos and intervals or any of it. I just was increasing my distance, increasing my time of running, and I graduated to full marathons from 2013 or something. And then I have an export business, so I travel a lot.
Yeah.
So I was traveling to a city called Nice in France for some work meetings, and I happened to land there on a Sunday noon. So I took a taxi from the airport to my hotel. I tried to book my hotel near the sea. It has a nice, sea coast along it. So I tried to book my hotel near the sea, and I was in the taxi going to my hotel. And I was on a road which was parallel to the beach, to the sea, and there was a block of buildings in between. So I was just sitting in the taxi and watching on the right towards the sea, and every time there used to be a road, coming from the road that I was driving on to the sea. This was like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And whenever I saw this sea line, I saw people, I saw silhouettes of people running across.
Okay.
So I was very surprised that 2 o'clock in the afternoon, so many people are running. I don't understand what's going on. So I reached my hotel, checked in, and I just went out for a walk to the beach. I said, let's see how many people run here in the afternoons. And it was by sheer coincidence that I walked up to the finish line of Ironman Nice.
Okay.
I had no idea what Ironman was, what a triathlon was. And I was trying to figure out what is happening, that there are these super, ripped athletes running to the finish line with their, they looked tired and they were drinking water and finishing line. And that's when I started reading around the posters and stuff there and asking people. And that's when I realized what an Ironman is. 2 hours, I was just standing there.
Just watching them.
Yeah, just watching like a kid. I couldn't believe the kind of people that were, reaching the finishing line. That's when I figured out what it was. And now, for some people, it may happen that that's when I got inspired to. It was not even in my wildest dreams that I could, attempt anything that crazy. It was like these people were superhuman.
I think I'm at that stage right now. Like I cannot dream of doing it.
Yeah,
but you never
exactly.
know.
So I was like, I couldn't even imagine I could ever attempt or even think of anything like that. Those guys there, I mean, you were looking at them and I said, I was a marathoner then, but they were world apart.
Yeah.
So it was not even in the thoughts. So next morning after my meeting, I took a flight out of Nice to, I think, Germany, and there was somebody sitting next to me, wearing a casual t-shirt, and he had his Ironman medal outside.
Okay.
And he boarded the flight like that. And, again, as a child, I was like, he's so impressive. What a guy. What has he done yesterday? So I came back, continued with my running. And eventually after, I think, a couple of years is when a couple of my friends started talking that there was a Goa triathlon happening.
Okay.
In Goa in the month of, I think, March.
Right.
So this was Olympic distance. This was much shorter version. This was a 1500 meter swim in the sea.
Okay.
Followed by a 40-kilometer ride and a 10-kilometer run.
Okay.
So we registered for it in October, and that's how my triathlon journey started.
Okay. So just to make it clear for the audience, for the viewers, that a triathlon is 3 races packed in one, right?
Yeah.
And what are those sports? The 3 races? Can you guys,
Yeah, so it's swimming, it's cycling, and then it's running. So how we said triathlon. So triathlon is a sport which is like different distances. So how he mentioned Olympic triathlon. Olympic distance is 1.5.
Yeah.
1.5 kilometers swimming. You've got 40-kilometer bike, and then you've got your 10 kilometers running, and this needs to be done back to back.
Right.
So that's like one of the distances, and then we progress to like a half Ironman and then a full Ironman.
So what's a full Ironman?
So full is 3.8 kilometers swimming. That's in open water, followed by 180 kilometers cycling.
That's 180 kilometers.
180 kilometers.
182
Yeah.
kilometers.
182 kilometers.
Cycling.
And then you've got a full marathon, 42.2.
And you do a full marathon after you've done all of that.
Yeah.
How many hours did you take to finish this?
I took 14 hours, 23 minutes.
Wow. What about you? We'll get to, first let's talk about how did you get into it? And then,
Yeah.
you can
So
tell
I've
about
been in sports always. I've played basketball all throughout.
Yeah.
When I was, I think, 5, 6, my parents, they put me into summer camp. And I'm always thankful. So I was a chubby kid. And the whole idea was that, fitness is required. So I played basketball. I played cricket. Then I got into college thanks to playing at national level.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I would never score so much. So I got into LSR, continued playing there for DU. Then after college, I did my master's also in Delhi. And then I continued playing a little bit, but it was never in the mind that I want to, because then you get into the zone of what next.
Yeah, get a job and
So I
get into
started,
that trap.
Yeah, which everyone does. And, I had this idea of I want to work in corporate because that was very fascinating that time. So sports has always been a very close part. But for me, that time fitness was same that, it was all about weight. Even though I was playing at national level, it was all about how the body looked.
Yeah.
And I have
More
been
of vanity than actual performance.
Yes, it was never, and it was never structured also. So our coaching would have been: you come, you run 5 kilometers, do 10 rounds, you play the sport, that's all. And but because I was into fitness and I had this thing of you want to look a certain way, so I used to go to the gym. I think I started when I was in 10th, so just going in a gym doing like random workouts. So yeah, that was always a part. Then I moved to Australia for my MBA there, and the whole idea was to work there in corporate. So that's where actually my idea of fitness changed completely. Before that, I was not into running other than like doing short distance, and I used to like participate in school events like 100 meters and all those things. So running was just like 2 kilometers just for fitness.
Yeah.
There was a class called Military Fit, which was run by one of the military guys in Australia.
Okay.
And I had this perception that I'm fit because I was
Yeah.
gymming every day.
Until you got into that class.
Yeah, so a friend of mine and I, we said, okay, Military Fit, like, what will kya kara lenge type. So, we
Yeah.
go there and we enter, and there's like a board, and it has written things like 100 pull-ups, 100 push-ups, 100 burpees, and I'm like, okay, like, whatever. So I start, and halfway there, I'm like dead.
Yeah.
My friend left the class, by the way. She
Yeah.
was like, I'm not doing this to myself. And I'm like there, and I'm like, what's happening? And I saw for the first time women doing push-ups
Yeah.
and proper like push-ups, pull-ups without assistance. And I was blown away. I was like, this is it. So for almost a year and a half, I did not miss a single class there.
Wow.
And that changed my mindset. After that, I was like, it's not about weight, it's about strength. And then I got into powerlifting, Olympic weightlifting. Like that was something where, deadlifting and all those things for the first time. And that's it. So I was working in corporate there when I finished my master's. But I got so much into fitness that I did my certification while I was working and studying.
Right.
So I did my first certification there for my own knowledge.
Yeah.
I had no idea that I will come back and do something in fitness, although that was always, but the
calling.
sport, yeah, but the sports scene wasn't that big. 2016, 2017, like it was growing in India, but it wasn't something where,
I think
you
it's
could
blown up after COVID, especially.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Definitely. So, like I wasn't sure that I want to come back and, do something like this, especially in Jaipur. But 2019 is when I spoke to my company, and they were very, very nice. They said that, okay, you go back, you join the team there and you work. So I was working for them and I started doing my fitness business simultaneously. And then I did a 10K run and I meet him at the finish line, a friend of mine.
Yeah.
So I finished my run and I started running, so I did a 5K. My idea was I'm never going to do more distance than that.
Yeah.
Then 10K, same. So whatever distance you finish, you say, okay, we are not doing more. But of course that changes.
Yeah.
So I did a 10K and I met him and that's it. I think we just briefly met and okay, so we go back home. And then I think it was Tapri we met.
Yeah, you met
Yeah.
the first time to discuss your running goals.
Discuss my running goal. So because I got to know that he's helping people and he was
Yeah.
very kind. So we met there and then he said, okay, do a 21. And then he mentioned about triathlon. And I did not even know that he's done an Ironman. I had no idea about Ironman, literally.
Yeah.
So I took out a picture recently where I did a 13.5 kilometer cycling in Australia for fun. And I'm like posting like, wow, 13.5 kilometer.
Yeah.
So, and then I did a few runs and then he tells me, okay, this is Ironman and you have to swim. And I have no background in swimming and a lot of open water fear. I didn't have a bike, nothing. He said 90 kilometers you have to ride and then this. And I said, okay. And I think I registered for it. And then, that's when that was my 70.3, the half Ironman, which I did.
Wow.
That's how it started. Yeah.
How long did you train for your first half Ironman?
I think it wasn't like a very so I got the bike. I think it was three and a half months for a half Ironman, which I trained for.
So this question is a very subjective one.
Yeah, that's
How long do you train? So basically it all depends on the kind of base that you have.
Okay.
If somebody, starts fresh and says, how long do I need? You need 1.5, 2 years.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Not to train for that event, but to build up a base, which will lead to those 3 months when you need to train.
Yeah.
So if you have that base, I had that base when I started out. She had that base.
Yeah.
Right. So then you get into a structured training plan where you kind of improve all the 3 disciplines and practice how to basically do all these 3 disciplines back to back. So that usually takes 3 to 4 months is more than enough if you have a solid base.
How do you I want to understand one thing, like what goes on into what kind of training do you need to prepare for like these kinds of distances? Okay, time is say 3.5 months, but on a daily basis during a week, how do you train for it? Like how many hours do you swim? How many hours do you run? And
It's not as bad and as big as people would make out to be. The first condition is that you need to have a base, right? So you need to be, if you want to attempt a triathlon, you need to have been running for a while. You
so
can't start.
what would you call a decent base? Somebody who's watching this, if they've been running for say, if they run a 5K or a 10K on a daily basis, is that a good base?
Probably not.
Not. So
So if you're looking at a half Ironman,
Yeah.
right, you need to have run half marathons
okay.
because you need to run a half marathon in the event,
Okay.
right? If you attempt a full Ironman, you need to have run quite, at least a couple of full marathons. Only then you can look at a full Ironman. You cannot be running 15 kilometers maximum and then attempt a half Ironman with a 21 kilometer run. That's not wise.
And that's just running we're talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
So what about the other disciplines?
So generally, I feel that cycling is something that is easier than running
Okay.
in terms of doing distance because it's a less effort exercise. That's why the distance is the longest. So you need to have some cycling base, but I wouldn't say that you need any certain kind of distances that you would have done in cycling before you can attempt an event like that.
Okay.
Doesn't matter. Even if you've cycled 50 kilometers at a go, you can still go for a half Ironman with those 3.5-4 months of a structured training block. But for running, it's important that you need to have done half marathon.
And swimming?
Yes, you need to have done some. You need to be a swimmer to
First
begin
of all.
with.
Why don't you tell your swimming story? Don't ask me.
Neither of us are swimmers.
Yeah, I'd like to know that.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
pretty bad swimmer that I am. Even now, when a good swimmer friend looks at me swimming and he says, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
So it's that bad.
So as you said, it's not swimming, it's not drowning. That's what you said,
precisely,
right?
precisely. So that's what it is. So the problem with swimming with me was, and with probably most of others was, if you learn swimming the right way, right at the right age in school or in college or whatever, if you learn the right technique, you get a muscle memory where you know exactly how to move, how your legs stay up, how do you float, how do you kick, how do you keep your head down.
Yeah, the fundamentals need to be right in
Yeah,
that case.
yeah. With cycling, if your fundamentals are not right, it's easier to improve and to change the wrong to right. With running also, the swimming, the problem is that you've got it wrong from the beginning, like I did.
Most people.
Right? Yeah. So I never trained how to swim. My friends took me to a pool and just pushed me in.
Right.
And I just came out, and that's how I started. So I never really learned swimming for any coach or anybody. So I just knew, my swimming for me was a holiday thing. Right? So you go to a resort, you go in the pool, you sit at one end, just paddle to the other side and sit there.
That's right.
So that's all the swimming that I knew. Now the problem is that once you know it wrong, and when you try to do it right, the muscle memory
and also at that age, right? Because you've been doing it for a while now, so
Yeah,
you
yeah,
are
absolutely.
used to of a certain way.
And then in swimming, what happens is that when you try to do it right, maybe you will remember 10 things that you have to look down at the base of the pool, you have to keep kicking. But with swimming, the thing is that the moment you get some water in your nose and mouth and you swallow some, the panic mode kicks in. And then you forget everything that you've learned, and your muscle memory will kick you into a reflex action where you will come back to what you knew,
Right.
the survival mode. So to unlearn wrong is very, very difficult.
I'm digressing from this a little bit, but it is related to swimming. So there's this book called The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. And Charles Duhigg talks about Michael Phelps in the book. And he talks about how Michael Phelps had a ritual before he swam every day for the, since he was swimming forever. So this was 2008 Beijing Olympics gold medal final. Coincidentally, Olympics are going on right now. So 2008 Beijing Olympics gold medal final, and Michael Phelps comes in. He wakes up at the same time that he wakes up every day. He has his breakfast at the same time, and then does a little bit of stretch, and then comes for the race. Wears his suit, stands on the pedestal. He's listening to the same music that he listens to every day, eyes closed, body flexing and relaxing, and then takes it off. His name is called off, and looks at the pool and jumps in. And then a lap or two goes on, and then after lap 3 or 4, he realizes that there is some water, some droplets in his glasses, in swimming goggles, right? And as you said, कि मुंह में पानी चल जाए, आँख में पानी चले जाए, you would get
Panic.
anxious, panic attack. So he does that and he realizes it that's what is happening, and this is Olympic final gold medal match, right? But he keeps on swimming because he knows, he's so used to of doing this, that he knows that after how many strides he's going to reach the other end of the pool. So keeps on doing it, and by lap 6 or 7 or 8 maybe, if I'm not wrong, he's blind pretty much. So he doesn't know what others are doing. He's just doing this thing at his own pace. After a while, the hooter, he knows that, okay, this is lap 20, this is the 20th stride, and then this is the 21st stride. He touches and he knows, okay, I'm done with it, because the hooter sounds and whatever. And then he takes off his glasses, doesn't know who's done what, looks at the scoreboard, and the scoreboard says WR,
Wow.
world record.
That's crazy.
It just blew my mind. So, I mean, coming from there, the kind of preparation that goes on into becoming an athlete of this level is just mind-blowing.
True.
And as you said that you weren't even a swimmer, and you ended up swimming in an open lake
water.
or
My event was in a lake.
in a lake. So it's a big deal. I mean,
Yeah, the full Ironman was in a lake. The half was in sea.
wow. Where was your Ironman? Where did you?
I did the half in China. That was also in a lake. But for me, that was also a challenge because I still remember. So also, I just wanted to add, because I think people want to know, we have cutoffs for each discipline.
Okay.
So you have to swim for a full in 70 minutes.
Okay.
And if you don't make it, you're out. So it's a DNF. Same for the bike.
No,
There is
70 minutes is for the half.
for the half,
Half,
sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
For the full?
For the full
2 hours,
is
20
2 hours,
minutes.
20 minutes.
For the swim.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you've got these cutoffs if you don't make it. And then for me, being a non-swimmer, especially during my 70.3, I just, got the distance. The first time so day one, you have got a lake practice swim. And that is the first time I'm entering an open water.
Wow.
And I enter and I have a panic attack. And so there are people jumping, swimming. And the safety guard comes up to me because I could not swim. Because it's the first time open water. I could not swim. And then he comes up to me and says that, you're not fit to swim tomorrow. There are going to be 1,000 athletes. You can drown and it's the responsibility. And he was an Australian because I could see he's wearing that. So I said that, whatever, I've been there. I've tried to, and I've flown from India for this. Just give me a chance. It's on me. It's my responsibility.
Yeah.
So he told me one thing. He's like, just forget everything. Just think there is a white line. Like, how you would, because it's so different swimming in a pool than this.
Yeah.
So then that's when, I started. And so next day, I think it's the event energy and whatever your adrenaline is that, I could do it.
How long did you take to finish it?
61 minutes. I just made it.
The swim?
The swim.
Wow.
So this is my half. So that's that bad swimmer I am. Now my full
Trust
Ironman.
me, from what I do, this is like rocket pace.
So even though I did a bit of practice for my full, so I come out of the the lake. This is in Germany.
Yeah.
And I see the time and I saw it's 2:42. For some reason, I thought because I had so much fear that I won't make the cutoff. And so I'm like, I'm done because I did not make the cutoff, right? 2:42 and 2:20.
Yeah.
And this guy shouts, keep going. And it was 1:42.
Oh,
So for me,
wow,
I was
well done.
like that, this is crazy. Because there was so much fear in my head that I won't make the cutoff. Because
And then
I'm
how
not-
long did you take to finish your cycle? The bike
So
ride?
the entire thing, 13 hours,
13 hours.
47 minutes.
Wow.
13:47.
I was doing my research on Ironman before coming for the podcast. So right now there's this guy, it's a Danish guy. I don't remember his name. These guys, the top athletes in the world, they're doing it in like 7 hours, sub 8 hours, 7 hours, 50 minutes, 7 hours. What goes into the mind? I mean, it's just crazy.
I think there are a few things there because
But they're also professional athletes. They're
That is
doing
what
it.
they
That's
do.
their bread and butter,
that's
right?
what they do.
Yeah.
But
For us,
also
it's
it's
recreation.
also
Exactly.
introduced at a very young age. Triathlon, you might have seen kids. There
Yeah.
is a kids Ironman event
There's
happening.
an Iron Kids also.
Iron Kids. And I think
Oh, wow.
none of us, and it also depends from where you come. Like here, open water is not such a common thing,
Yeah,
swimming
yeah,
and all
yeah.
those things.
Living in Rajasthan, open water is not really
Not-
easily available.
Yeah. So I think those things, and of course they do it as, that's their profession. So makes a big difference.
Okay, so now that we know about Ironman, I want to ask you guys more generic stuff. related to health and fitness and training. Let's start by your daily routine. So most people who are watching this, if they're not professional athletes, they do it for fun or they love doing it, as you guys started off. But apart from this, we also do the real stuff during the day, right? Our day job and everything. What is your day like? So that you...
So very different.
Yeah.
I think you
Yeah.
go first. Very different.
So for me, because I'm a fitness coach, so for me, my day will start by 6:37. Even though it's a challenge every day, but I don't have an option. So I've got like my days fixed. I've got my training plan for the week. I know when I'm running, mornings or evenings, afternoons, whenever. But generally, so I take my sessions from 6:30 till 11. Then I've got like the afternoon for myself. Then again, I start at like 5 till 7:38. I'm working, and in the between, I've got admin works. I've got like other things to do.
So how do you fit in your training?
So then I keep definitely 2 to 3 days mornings. I try to keep it free and I start work late because I need to get my training in runs, and I do my strength sessions in the afternoons. And whenever I miss a session, I try to just go in the evening.
How many days a week do you train? So how many days do you run, and how many days do you train? As in lift weights?
Yeah. So for me, I think lifting weights is like very, very important. So it's 3 days a week.
We'll come to that. Why is it important?
Yeah.
But yeah,
So I do 3 days of strength training, and running changes between 4 to 5 days depending on our goal. So for a half marathon, generally it's 4 days of running which we do. For a full, it'll increase. So as of now, it's 4 days of running and 3 strength. So 7 sessions for me.
7 sessions for you.
Yeah.
How about you, Amit?
So I've got a business that I run. So I have to leave home at 10 and get home by 6:45. So that's my working time for 6 days a week. Sometimes 5. Like today, it was 5 days. So I do my runs in the morning. Again, 4 to 5 days depending on what phase of training we are. As we get closer to an event, it gets up to 5 days. Right now, this is off season. This is not the best time to run anyway. So it's humid, it's hot. So it's 4 days a week. So I start early in the morning.
And what is, and both of you can answer this, what is your usual distance every day? Like the run?
So when we are training for a full marathon, which most of the time we are training for full marathons only.
During off season?
Yeah, even then. I mean, so weekday runs are pretty much the same.
How far?
It's off season. So a minimum, I would say 10 to 12 kilometers. It's a minimum that we go for about 3 days a week. Right? The weekend Sunday run or the Saturday run, the long run is longer.
Yeah. And how long is that?
It starts from 14, 18 and it goes up to all the way up to 36 kilometers.
Wow.
Again, depending on what time, what phase of training you're in, how far or how close you are to the event. So there's a structure to any training plan. So you basically, make a base and then you start increasing your distance, reach a peak, a couple of weeks before the race, and then you taper down.
And why do you taper down?
To basically see any training plan, that goes over to the peak would consist of long runs, easy runs, and plus some speed work. It could be intervals, it could be tempo runs. So, the body keeps getting fatigued. So you reach a peak where you reach your peak performance. You run a 36 kilometer when you're training for a full marathon. You've got, a few weeks of speed work thrown in and you're at your peak form. So obviously the body is tired then. So the taper works two things. One, it kind of recovers your body, you get rest, but it should not be long enough so that you lose that edge.
Right.
So whatever you've gained in those 4 to 6 weeks of structured training, you peak at a point and then you just taper enough to kind of recover, and then that's when you are race ready.
So add to this, so I think when you said that how much do you run is very subjective. For a beginner, it may not be as much as we are running right now.
This is for only for full marathon.
This is for full, for a beginner, even doing a first half marathon, because their goal might be just to finish. They could get away with, 3 days of running. If they just want to finish and, experience the event, the training changes as your goals will change. So like for us, if we are chasing for a certain time, we have to put in more mileage, right? So more distance weekly.
Right.
That's one. For the taper, as he said that, the body needs to be fresh. The science is that, depending on if you're doing a half marathon, that's 21.1. It's about 7 to 10 days of taper. That means you start reducing the load. Same with strength, right? So you take so that your body recovers and you're able to perform. For a marathon, it'll be different. So marathon, generally, it's like 2 weeks of taper. So it's very subjective where you are, what your goal is in terms of training. So that makes a big difference.
So you mentioned when you were talking about the runs, you mentioned tempo run, and so how do you prepare for a run? What is a tempo run, and why do you have to run slow when you're running slow? And then also, so I want to ask you a few questions that I am very curious about. So I got into running and I started following these guys, and everybody talks a lot about zone 2 cardio. So can you talk a little bit about zone 2 tempo and all of these things?
So yeah, it's a very complicated topic in terms of, because there's so
We're
much
getting
to
a little nerdy here, but yes.
Yeah. So just if you're talking from a beginner's point of view,
Yes.
I think when you are starting, it's not about the biggest mistake, which even I made and I think all of us make, is that every run we want to go fast.
Right.
So if I've done like a 5K in 30 minutes, next time whenever I'm doing, I want to do it in 29. That
True.
is the mindset of most of us.
Right.
So that's wrong. The reason why we have these variety is, one, because if you're just doing the same thing, your body gets used to it. And second, you will not make any gains. So generally in running, you've got like a long run. I'm just talking at a very general. You've got intervals that can differ based on your goal and your distance. Intervals would be generally like a 200 or a 400 meters interval, 800, and that can go up to 1.6 kilometers as well.
Okay.
Tempo is running at a certain speed for generally starts from 5 to 7 minutes, and it can last up to 30 minutes as well. So tempo is, I think,
just at the same pace.
At the same pace you
Maintaining
maintain,
the tempo,
but
okay,
that
that's
is
what it means.
slightly slower than your race pace. So these are some complications. It depends from coach to coach as well, how they plan your program. So intervals will make you faster. Tempo gives you the speed and the endurance to be running at a certain pace for that time duration, which will in the end help you get faster. The long runs, they say zone 2, zone 3, zone 5. These are different zones where we train at.
Zones of heart rate is
Heart rate zones. Now, from a general health point of view, as even somebody, the HIIT training which we do, where we are looking at going to the gym and just going all out always, it's not good for your health, not good for your heart. Plus, people think that that's when all the fat loss happens. That's also not the case. So for a long-term health benefit, they say that you should be in zone 2, zone 3. That also varies from person to person for longer. So that's like doing slow sessions.
Okay, so for a layman, how would they know that they're training in zone 2 or zone 3? So if you have a watch,
you have a watch.
But if you don't have a watch.
So the basic thing they say is that when it's a conversational pace, when I'm talking about running. So when we do our long runs, we are not into, so there are different ways of training. People, they choose to do HR based training where they'll like wear an HR strap, and that's a different way of training. We don't do that. We generally do based on paces. So for us, a long run will be where we can have conversation.
So if you're able to, for a while into a run, if you're able to speak a complete sentence without going out of breath, that is
zone 2 basically.
That's zone 2, zone 3.
And why is zone 2 so important? Like they also say that, zone 2 is really important for you to make an aerobic base.
Yeah.
What is an aerobic base and why is zone 2 important? Or why I'm asking this is because, as you said, everyone who starts running, they want to finish it. They want to be as quick as possible. But that's not the case. That's not how it should be.
Yeah.
So why is it
So
important?
running slow actually makes you faster in the long run is something that I'm also learning, because it's not that every run. Because endurance is a different thing. Speed is a different thing, right? Running fast requires you to do both. So endurance is your stamina in layman's term. So to build that, you need to run slow, and that's your zone 2, zone 3. But it can vary because your zone 2, zone 3, because we are not full-time athletes. So like, say if I have a late night and I go in the run in the morning, my heart rate might be more. Or if I have a stressful day or eating, a lot of things impact your heart rate. So it's very difficult for you to generally train based on that zones. But for you to improve your endurance, your stamina, you need to be running slow. So the conversational pace that helps you build that.
So in my defense, I was in zone 2 this morning, okay? So where you were running fast and
so I was definitely
in your tempo,
I had a
and I was
tempo
in
session.
zone 2. But okay,
So,
I gotta save my
so the
ass
longest
here.
you can
Whenever we
spend.
talk about zone 2 aerobic base, see, you've got to understand that we're not talking about 200 meter, 400 meter, 500 meter races.
Yeah.
All we've been talking about is endurance.
Right.
Whether it's a half marathon, a full marathon, a half Ironman. So for endurance to sustain that kind of distance, you need to condition your heart and your body to go a long way. And the best way to do it is to do it slow. You do the speed work to get faster, but you do the endurance runs to go longer. And ultimately, it's a combination of these kind of runs that, make you a fast long runner.
So it's similar to lifting heavy weights for low reps and lifting light weights for high reps.
This is something she can answer,
So
not me.
yeah, so when you say lifting light weights for high reps, anywhere above 20 is endurance. So it's building your endurance capacity.
Yeah.
15 would be hypertrophy, that's muscle building. And when we say heavy, that's strength is like 6 into 6. So like going extremely heavy for like 5 to 6 reps. So that's a little technical in terms of strength, but that's what it is that, if you want to go longer, the muscles are working more in short.
Also different kinds of muscle like slow twitch
Slow
fibers
twitch,
and fast twitch
so
fibers.
for a marathoner, the slow twitch is going to be more than fast twitch. And of course, because when you're doing these endurance, the muscle fiber, there is a study which says also changes a little bit as you grow.
Okay.
And of course, as you age, the muscle fiber changes. That's also another thing. So when we go into the technical, but here because we are talking longer distance, it is about building the stamina in layman's term or your endurance. That's how it is.
Okay, so while we're talking about weights also, why is lifting weights important to run better?
Shivangi, that's your forte, not mine. I don't lift weights.
You don't lift weight at all. Okay. Now so now we have two questions. How is he able to do it when he's not lifting weights, and why do you say that lifting weights is important? Because I know you do.
So I think he's been running more than I have, so he can.
What I'm doing is not right. I am very well aware, very well aware that strength training is extremely important to be a better runner. For me, at times it just comes to a point where I have to choose between whether I want to be a better runner as much that I have to go through the gym that I don't like.
Yeah. I think it's at this stage, maybe it has become more of something that you love to do rather than something that you do it for performance.
I won't do something that I don't enjoy to get a few minutes faster.
Yeah. And now let's get into the scientific aspect of it.
So strength training now, there is a difference between strength and resistance. I would say for athletes, resistance training, that's lifting weights, is important because there's a lot going on about that. People are saying it's strength training session. It's not, because when they talk about strength, it's generally like, as I said, heavier reps for a certain number of. So talking about resistance training, important because of course injury prevention is one thing. Second, because the body is so used to running in linear, one direction, it's very important for us to add components of functional movement as well, multi-directional. Same thing again, to avoid injuries, improves your strength, power of the muscle, which keeps you longer in the game. So I am training people who were not doing resistance training or strength training earlier, and say after 10, 12, the muscle starts fatiguing, 10, 12 kilometers. But now they say that, okay, we can push it till 15, 16 because the muscle has that power and the strength.
Right.
So that's one. Second, of course, injury prevention. It's very, very important for you to... People have this conception that running is a high injury sport, which is also true because it's not just strength. As runners, the body becomes so tight that we need to add mobility. A bit of yoga is also required. So if it is a full pack, then you are going to be there in the game for longer.
How do you... So say now I'm running say 3-4 days a week and then lifting weights for 3-4 sessions. How does your body recover well? What do you do for good recovery, efficient recovery? I think your body is used to by now of running 10-12 kilometers, so it doesn't matter when you do it a little longer. Maybe
injury prevention. So I have been, 90% of 80% of the times, 80% of the year, I'm perpetually injured somewhere.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Even today, I told you, I have a sore glute. So it goes with the thing. The point is, again, as I said, when I have to choose between, dragging myself to a gym or staying injured, I manage all right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm not chasing so much, the time targets anymore.
Right.
I've achieved a decent time in
Yes.
a half marathon, a full marathon. I'm quite content with what I've done. So to get any better than what I've done, it requires me to do a lot of things, including strength training. So I generally, I'm happy with what I'm doing. I enjoy my runs.
Yeah.
It's not a good thing to do that I'm doing. I should be doing strength training.
And do you do anything for recovery? Like, do you... Is it just regular rest for you, or do you do anything
So
special?
for me, as I was telling you, my day begins very early. So for example, if I have to go for my work at 10 from my house, I should ideally be home by 8:30, and I've got plenty of time to to get ready
Hmm.
and then go to work. But what I choose to do is I start really early.
Right.
So even today, I started my run at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
Where there was no need. I had to run just 20 kilometers. It would have taken me 2 hours, some minutes.
Yeah.
But I decided to go early. I always try to make sure that I go earlier than needed. Finish my run, come home. I'm usually always home by 7 o'clock. So I come home, take a shower, have my breakfast, get my office stuff ready, and then I take a nap after my breakfast. So that's the best recovery for me. I'm tired.
Yeah. Sleep is
I'm
great for
showered
recovery, of course.
and I'm fed.
Yeah.
It's perfect recipe to get a nap, 30-40 minutes. So 9 o'clock, 9:30ish, I take a nap. 9:55, I'm up. 10 o'clock, I'm out. And I'm kind of
Then
sorted
going
for
by
the day.
your day and
Sorted for the day. Then I don't feel any fatigue in it. That 30-minute sorts me out.
What about you, Shivangi?
So
what do
for
you do
me,
first?
I cannot, sleep after because I have work as soon as I come back. Generally. So, but I make sure I get a good night's sleep. Sleep is actually the best way to recover.
Yeah.
That's one. Food plays a major role. What you're eating pre, post. I think that's
I'm
extremely
going to
important.
talk about it later.
Yeah.
So the
And
biggest challenge for me is to getting her to start early for the runs. She's
Early-
almost stopped running with me now.
yeah.
Because you're
Yeah, I want to
while
start
she's
at 5.
still sleeping, your run is probably ending.
So sometime after I've come back home, had my breakfast, had my sleep,
I'll
and
message.
then I see that she's starting a run at 9 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, I can go like 10, 11. That's why I love winters. For me, I think because since school, I've been waking up at since I didn't have an option. We had to reach school for practice at 5. So I think for me, if I can get sleep till 7:30 is like a blessing. So I try to do that whenever. So I miss a lot of group runs because of this reason. But in terms of recovery, I think the major part also is how you program your training during the week. So if you're doing strength and running, so you do strength on day 1 and then you run on the day 2, so you recover. It takes you about 24 hours to 42.
Yeah.
And also it's important that you're not overdoing it in each session. So like today I had a tempo session. Like if tomorrow I'm doing an interval, I will not recover. So it's about spacing out the workout. And also when I'm doing my strength sessions with running, especially if it is during my peak, my aim is not to improve in my strength. So I'm not looking at a PR of my deadlift. Right? It's about maintenance. So, those things you have to balance out. And I think then it just helps you in the long run.
Do you think stuff like ice baths and steam
Massage.
and sauna, and do these help?
Definitely. They
I
do.
make it a point to get at least one massage a week.
Right.
It's very, very important because as I said, I don't do any mobility, pre-run stretch, post-run stretch. I do none of it. I mean, I just drive to the place where we park, come out of the car, and then I just head out for my run, finish my run, sit in the car, go home. Which is actually not correct, but yeah, I just don't.
You're a natural, probably. Yeah.
I don't know. It's probably more from the head than physical. So, as I said, for the swim, so I was as there's a cutoff, and I was a very poor swimmer. So when we went for our half iron in Phuket, it was that time there was nobody who knew about what half iron is, what Ironman is.
Trust me, even today, a very few people.
No, but there is a lot of awareness
because
now.
you are in that community. But in a layman's community like me, probably nobody knew about what an Ironman is. Now people are, thankfully.
I'm talking 2016.
Yeah,
Nobody knew nothing. So we found out, we registered in Phuket, four friends, we registered together. Because we'd done a couple of Olympic distance in Goa and we thought it's time to go for a half. So we registered and there was this big noise in Jaipur, the gym that I went to do our conditional training. So the gym kind of, went out loud saying 4 people from the gym are going for a half iron. And one of us, was a bit of a social thing. So he actually had, articles in newspapers of him running at Nahargarh that Jaipur se koi half iron karne ja raha hai aur ye hota hai. So there was this, big buzz at that time in 2016 of the people around us that. So more than the challenge to finish the event was the responsibility of what if we don't do it? How will we come back and how will we face people?
Yeah.
So my biggest scare was swim.
Yeah.
I couldn't swim. So there was a 70-minute cutoff. And I was as poor a swimmer then as I am now. I was very, very scared that I might not make the 70-minute cutoff.
Yeah.
So it was that pressure, I think. So there is no technique, no strength, nothing. It was that pressure on the mind that I have to somehow come out in less than 70 minutes. so that at least I can go back in Jaipur and show my face to people.
True.
How would I walk into a gym जहाँ पे माला पहना के half iron करने भेज रहे हैं,
Okay.
and you come back and you got DNF
No
out for
pressure.
swim
No
only.
pressure.
So I went out, and then single-minded focus was just to finish, and it was all, I think, mental strength more than the physical.
And I think it's still the same because that's why you're able to just get out of the car, get it done, and then
Yeah.
go back home.
So I finished my swim, ran to the beach, and I looked at my watch. It was 45 minutes. So then I knew that now I'm going back with a medal.
Yeah.
Cycle run में कुछ नहीं होगा. Swim was what I was worried about. So for most of the events, I think for endurance events, mental strength is very, very, very important. I think in spite of not doing strength, in spite of being injured, I think it's that mental thing that kind of pulls me off.
I think it actually makes you mentally stronger. And like doing these endurance events, like I've done a 50 kilometer run, he's done 100.
Yeah.
So I think it's in the end because you're like zoned out, like, you know, in the end it's
I'm
all the
zoned out
mind.
right now. I'm listening to you guys, and I'm
So
like,
we
I'm
registered-
imagining and visualizing how you would have gone in water. Yeah.
So we registered for this race called Hell Race in Jaisalmer, which is
Okay.
an ultra race.
Okay.
Starts at
So
noon.
so what's an ultra race for everyone?
Okay, so we spoke about a half iron, which is 21.1, a half marathon, which is 21.1,
Yeah.
a full marathon, which is 42.2.
Yeah.
Anything above 42.2 kilometers called an ultra run.
Hmm.
Typically starts at 50 kilometers.
Hmm.
50 kilometer run is an ultra run.
Right.
So there's one that happens in Jaisalmer. It's called
Okay.
the Hell Race. It's called Hell Race because it starts at 12 noon.
And
And
in Jaisalmer.
Yeah, in
Jaisalmer.
Jaisalmer, and not the city. It's a highway. It's from Jaisalmer to a village called Ramgarh.
Hmm.
So there are three distances there: 50, 100, and 100 miler.
What?
160.
Come again?
160.
50 kilometers, 100 kilometers, and a 160.
160.
kilometers.
Yeah, 100 mile. Yeah.
So she registered for a 50,
50.
I registered for a 100. We started training. We booked our train tickets, and then she got injured
Hmm.
along the way.
Yeah.
And she decided, I'm not going.
I'm
Please
pulling
cancel
out.
my ticket.
Yeah.
I cancelled the ticket,
Hmm.
the train ticket. And then I spent the next 2 days trying to, drill into her head. No, we'll come around it, we'll do it together.
Yeah.
And then we rebooked the ticket.
Yeah.
And then got her training with her injury. She had a knee brace.
Okay.
And you came first.
Third. I came third.
She got a
Wow.
podium on that 50 kilometers.
Wow.
Yeah.
How long did you take to finish it?
I think 5 hours, 50 minutes, 45 minutes, something. Under 6. So
Podium.
What month was it?
December.
Thank God.
Yeah,
At
of
least.
course. We
It
wouldn't do
wasn't
in June.
very...
But it still helped.
afternoon, yeah. But it was a
Excellent.
great experience, yeah, for sure. So I backed out because I had the injury. I think during my 42.2, one of the marathons also the first. So the thing is because, I've been in sports. So even if I have like a little bit pain here and then, I'm very cautious. So I think my first marathon also, I got like a niggle in my knee and I was like, I'm just backing out. And then he's like, no, you can do it. And then I got the brace.
Before your first marathon, you stopped at AU Jaipur.
Yeah. So I had a,
So 2 weeks before her first full
full
marathon,
marathon.
we trained together.
Yeah.
I gave her a plan, and she
Yeah.
was ready for a full
Yeah.
marathon. And
Yeah.
2 or 3 weeks, 3 Sundays before, there was a Jaipur marathon.
half marathon.
Okay.
And we were running that. And when I crossed Klaksa Mer, which is about 11-ish kilometers, she was walking. I said, what happened? She said, I've got pain in the knee. I can't. She'd abandoned.
I
She
walked.
quit
I took
that
an
run.
auto and came home.
She quit that run
Yeah.
3 weeks before. Then again, I pushed her. I said, no, we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
So her first full marathon, we trained together. We did together for about 15 kilometers.
15
I paced her.
kilometers. Yeah.
Because she's a fast runner, so
Yeah.
the tendency is to go fast. And
Yeah.
if you've not done a full marathon, you are naturally inclined to go fast when you have the energy.
Yeah.
So I said 15 kilometers, you will not go ahead of me. For 15-16 kilometers, I paced her, and I said, now you're fine, just maintain this way.
So yeah, I managed my first.
She managed a first full marathon 3 weeks after
Injury.
abandoning a race because of an injury.
Wow, that is
Yeah.
cool. Coming back from the tangent to recovery. Tell me about ice baths.
Yeah. So ice baths do help, but it is not supposed to be done. This is what they say that the same day. It's better if you do the next day. That's one thing. Second, there is also.
Don't they say that you have to take an ice bath? If you want to do an ice bath every day, you don't do it just after your strength workout.
Yeah, because the muscle size will
Yeah.
not grow,
Yeah.
is what they're
Yeah.
saying. Another very interesting thing which I actually heard in this podcast is that for women, ice baths are not very good.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, so I was actually blown away when I heard this, and it's that the heat works out better for women, and they talked about how ice baths may not be that effective for women in general. So yeah, there's a lot. See, the thing is, it's become a trend now. Everyone's doing it, for fun, which is good because,
Yeah.
of course, it makes you mentally strong. But
Yeah.
when to be done is a question. But I think in general, if it's not accessible for you, a massage is a good option.
Yeah.
Foam rolling is something which is very important, which neither of us
I
do.
swear by the foam roll, yeah.
But like I do it like once in a while, and I think he doesn't even.
I have a foam roller.
but never use
none of
it. It's more of a pillow sometimes
Never
rather
use
than
it.
the
So,
roller.
Never,
those
ever.
things, and I think what you do every day, hydration plays a major role in your
Yeah.
recovery. Food, timing of your food, everything.
So since we're talking about running, I want to ask this from a beginner's perspective. What are the few things that a beginner should keep in mind when they start running and their goal is not to run a marathon, just maybe run like a 5K or a 10K on a regular basis? So how does one start? Number one, in terms of training, and number two, do they do something differently in terms of their diet?
So for a 5 or a 10K, if you're just doing for recreational, few things is one, as I mentioned, that don't run fast every time.
So number
Because
one would be not to run fast.
in each run, because you will not get faster. That's one thing. Second, you might just get injured. That's one. Second, for a runner, a beginner, I think a combination of walk and run works out very well, because it's very hard for people to continuously run, say, 500 meters. So it's a good idea that you start, say, 200 meters of jogging and then 200 meters of walking. So you balance it out, and that's how you build your endurance and speed. Third is, do not start very fast, because this is what I see a lot. When even in, if there is somebody who's doing their first 5 kilometer, you'll see that they start very fast and then they burn out.
Start fast, as in the first few kilometers.
Yeah.
Don't be too fast.
Don't be too fast. You have to sustain. It's not running like 100 meters, right? So you have to sustain that for longer. So that's the third thing. In terms of nutrition, for a 5-10, you don't really need to increase your carbs intake. But generally for endurance, it's either you are increasing your carbs or your fat. Because either of the two things, there are people who resort to more of a fat specific diet, because that works out well for them as fuel, and some will be, majorly it'll be carbs. So you don't have to change that a lot. Few things you can do is have a pre-run, so like a banana or a date is fine.
What do you say about pre-run meals? Do you run empty stomach, or should you be a fuel? Because if you do it 5 a.m. in the morning, I'm sure you don't eat a lot.
No,
before
not
you
a
do.
lot.
You don't eat?
When no, I do.
You do.
Again, it depends on the time of the year and the phase of the training. If it's just easy, short run, a 10 kilometer or something, I would probably not eat anything.
Yeah.
Right?
Just a cup of black coffee, is that what you do?
Nothing.
No, nothing. No
Nothing.
coffee at all.
Nothing at all.
Okay.
But that depends. Again, if it's an off-season easy run, I wouldn't. But if it's something which is going to be, have some speed to it, or it is the season run where there is some speed mixed in, or if it is a longer run, then I would probably have a banana before.
Just a banana.
Yeah.
What about
For
you?
you, I don't do fasted cardios, no workouts. I always eat a banana or a date, whatever the distance is. And for women especially, you should be eating something in the morning. So it's generally a date with rock salt or a banana. I don't do coffee. I don't do that. Water, a lot of water we have, like, say, half a liter before we start. So that's one. And also depends on how we set the session. So if we have a longer session, we need to, of course, have more. So say if it's a 2-hour plus, then probably I'm having a toast with peanut butter and a banana. So it'll all boil down to what I'm doing in my training session.
Do you think anybody who runs just for fun also, or to lose weight, say, should they always do a structured run? Is it good to do a structured run, or
Not
is
I
it?
don't think so.
Not
No?
really. Yeah.
If you're just doing a run to stay fit,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you
Just
don't
move.
even need to reach 10 kilometers.
Yeah.
There's no need. You just do So that's what I meant when I said I go empty stomach. I would never go empty stomach when the run is a training run. Right? If it's a run where I just have to add some mileage to the week, then I would probably go empty stomach, because I'm going to be very relaxed, not even looking at my watch at what pace I'm going. So there I just listen to my body. There's no need. But generally, yeah, what she says is correct. You should, ideally, if you're taking it as a workout, you should have something.
Yeah, and we also have during our session. So like if it
Just
is
coming to
longer
that,
than
yeah.
60 minutes, then
Yeah.
because the glycogen stores will go down. So we generally will consume on a training run like a date or something, or banana. And but if it's an event, we resort to carb gels also. So like it depends on what you're doing. But yeah, you need to refuel every 60 minutes.
So what about electrolytes during the run? Should you, if it is a longer run, you suggest that one should take electrolytes during the
We
run?
almost always carry electrolytes with us.
And
so the water that we carry would have some sort of electrolytes mostly. If not, then it'll be in the car that we can come back to and replenish.
And is it usually, do you have electrolytes with sugar or is it without sugar? What is it?
We have a very
we
natural.
both stay away from
Yeah.
these, these tablets and these powders and any of it. We make our homemade electrolytes.
What is that?
So it's
Okay, so
basically-
what is a good homemade electrolyte for a runner?
Yeah, so it basically what you do is you take some saunf, jeera,
Yeah.
cinnamon,
Yeah, a little bit of
Okay.
cinnamon. No,
bit of
cinnamon.
cinnamon.
And rock salt.
and rock salt you take later. So you take these three, grind them, and kind of roast them dry. Thoda bhoon ke, and then you add rock salt to it. So it's a combination of rock salt with jeera, saunf, and cinnamon.
Okay.
So just half a teaspoon of that in water with half a lime juice.
Oh, and that's your electrolyte.
That's our
That's our
electrolytes.
electrolytes.
Wow, I've been spending like crazy on all sorts of electrolytes.
We thankfully, since we discuss a lot of our nutrition and everything together, we stay away from almost all kind of processed supplements, processed, things that you need.
Yeah, and I'm also a vegetarian. He consumes
Yeah,
eggs,
I
so
have eggs.
I've been a vegetarian for all the events that I do.
So we stay away from, these, as I said, electrolyte fizzy drinks and stuff like that. So any of it, nothing.
Wow.
But for the races that we do, for the events, obviously you can't carry your Nimbu Pani for 42 kilometers. You'll run out of it. So there we have to resort to whatever is available there, and even for food there. For example, for our long runs here, we would probably park a car somewhere where we can come back to in about 15 kilometers, eat something and then go back. Or we carry dates with rock salt. That is a fantastic combination.
Dates with rock salt.
Yeah,
so
so
you
you
get the
take a
carbs
date-
and
You take a date, cut it out, take the seed out, and just 1/4 of a teaspoon of rock salt. Just close it back, wrap it in a aluminum foil, make a packet, and just carry it in your pouch. So it's a small thing. So let's say 15 kilometers later, you just take it out, pop it in your mouth. You get your date, you get your salts, and then have water over it.
wow,
So
that's
Yeah,
that's a good
that's a good-
nutrition thing.
Yeah, so we consume a lot of dates as well.
But for the races that we do, we have to take gels, the carb gels.
Wow. And when you are doing going for a race, what is a pre-race meal for you then? It's not like a regular morning run, just a race proper. So
Dal
if you're
rice.
doing like a marathon, before marathon, what do you do? What do you
So
eat?
first thing that we do is we try and keep it very basic and simple, the kind of dinner that we eat at home. So for me, the favorite would be dal chawal, aloo and dahi. Right. So dal chawal and aloo is a combination which has enough carbs. So basically, I
And
try
a
to
little
load
bit
on
of
that.
protein, yeah.
There's a lot of thing about pasta dinners. So I prefer khichdi or dal chawal with aloo. And I think so do you.
Yeah, so I used to eat a lot of pasta, and I think I was enjoying that during my 70.3 every Saturday
Yeah,
eating.
she's carb loading every
Yeah,
time.
trying all the places. But now I have switched to dal rice, aloo, and khichdi either. And then we have something before the event, like
Yeah,
the
morning we
morning
have
we
early
have
morning we have some not the regular, just one banana.
so it'll be like a toast, two
Toast
slices
with
bread.
peanut butter. We'd probably have some oats.
Yeah.
Have a banana.
It's crazy how much talk goes around on social media about nutrition and all the big words and big terminology coming in about this and that and these supplements and those supplements, and how you guys who do it at that level are just taking stuff from their own kitchen and
Yeah, so mostly we
100%.
resort-
Yeah, we don't use anything processed. It's all homemade, home food and everything like that.
But I do take protein powder like when I have intense training, because I also don't eat eggs. So like of course I try to resort to sprouts and all those things, but you can't consume so much. So I'll take protein powder. I'll take in terms of supplements, B12, D3, all those things. Those are basics, but nothing like I don't have like a scoop of a pre-workout. I've never done that. I'd
Yeah.
never do it. And post-workout also, if time allows you, it's always good to have like a wholesome breakfast if it's a morning run. So like sprouts with poha and those things, rather than like anything post-workout like a fancy thing.
So for women, what would be your recommendation in terms of nutrition and supplementation? What are safe? What supplements are safe for women to
So
take
it's
and what they should?
subjective, but I definitely will say protein powder for people who cannot consume natural protein. For women, we tend to lose a lot of muscle mass after
So
the
whey
age of 30.
protein, isolate, whey protein,
It's very
concentrate.
it
What do you-
depends. So I go for vegan because it suits me.
Okay.
But whey protein, they say, has a better profile, so you can go for that. Whatever suits you. So that's a supplement in the end. If you cannot eat enough from natural food, then that's a good idea, because as women you start losing muscle more than men after the age of 30. So that's important. Then yeah, so that's one. Second, B12 generally is something we are deficient of. As women, you should also get your iron profile because of our menstruation cycle. So sometimes that also you need to take care, because of course when you're actually doing a lot of intense training, that can change. So you have to be cautious and mindful of those things. Other than that, I think natural food, whatever you can have, is always better.
What about you? What are your top 3 recommendations for supplementation? Do you take any supplements? No supplements at all?
No.
Not even whey?
Sometimes when I'm doing very intense training, I might take a scoop of protein. That's it. I don't take anything else.
But we do
I do
consume
get my-
sattu. That's
Sattu
is
I mean, I wouldn't call it a supplement.
yeah,
but
the
again,
natural
it's a natural
source.
thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but that's
So
nice.
for me, protein intake usually during the summers is 2 scoops of sattu with some rock salt, some bunawa jeera.
You
with
swear by
water.
rock salt, don't you? Always in
Yeah,
everything.
yeah. It's we don't use any white salt in our house.
Yeah. Also, Huberman talks about taking pinch of salt in the morning when you wake up first thing, so that it helps you have that mental clarity and focus.
Okay, I wasn't
So
aware of it.
yeah, he talks about. So he also says that you shouldn't drink coffee
Yeah.
right after you wake up. So at least an hour later.
Definitely,
since
that
you've
I
woken
agree
up.
with. Yeah.
Yeah.
So my nutrition also varies again, as I said, from what part of the training I am in. So if I'm actually seriously training for something, then in the morning I would have a routine of having some nimbu pani with some jeera and all of it, right? Some greens that I take. So that is only for a specific period of time. Normally I would just have lukewarm water. That's all I have.
And nothing special in your diet, like ऐसा नहीं होता like oh I'm going low carb or I'm
Absolutely not.
Never.
So you eat whatever is
Yeah,
cooked at home,
Yeah.
and the only thing constant in your day is your workouts, your run,
Yeah.
and then the rest also kind of in a way stays the same in terms of food that you eat. Ghar ka khana, is that what you
Ghar
prefer?
ka is good. Of course, stay away from ultra processed packed food and stuff like that's rare. We do go out a lot. We eat out, but what we choose.
But you
makes a
can
big-
make healthier choices nowadays, right?
Definitely. So we go out. Like I think he also has a lot of social commitments. I also like to go out, explore places. So it's not that we're not eating out as much, but I do stay away from sugar. That's definitely one thing. So processed sugar is something that I'm away from. Rest,
so
how
no
you
Red Bulls for you, no
Nothing.
Cokes for you, right?
Cokes, I think I enjoyed a lot during my Ironman training. That was something that I, treated myself. So during long rides, because you're on the highway. So sometimes, 100, 150,
Yeah, we were.
we could have Coke that time.
So
So
for our long sessions, like when she was training for her Ironman, when I was training for my Ironman, so
Yeah.
it's like a 6-hour session. You have a 150-kilometer ride,
Wow.
and then that follows with a 15-kilometer run. So then how do you, because a date and rock salt won't suffice.
Yeah.
Nimbu pani will not be enough. You need solid food for that kind of a distance.
True.
So then what we used to do was carry, bread with peanut butter, mashed potatoes, boiled potatoes.
and
mashed
while you're
potatoes.
on your bike, you're eating
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I mean, you stop and eat.
Yeah.
Because we're not
Of
racing,
course,
it's a
yeah,
training, right?
yeah,
So you stop
yeah.
somewhere, let's say 75 kilometers later, you stop at a place, you eat whatever is there.
So that's when we had like Coke.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in the sub, Coke is a great energy giver. In the Ironman aid stations,
Right.
they have electrolytes, water, and Coke.
Yeah.
So they hand out Coke to you.
So that's when I do enjoy
That's
my...
the only time when Coke is good for you. Probably.
probably.
Right?
Probably,
That's
yeah.
the only time when Coke is good for you. Okay, so coming from nutrition to mindset and mental toughness.
I just got reminded of electrolyte tablets.
Oh,
So
yeah.
somebody introduced her to these electrolyte tablets, which were Coca-Cola flavored. And she goes, ballistics over that. Oh, tastes so good. Electrolytes.
I've had that. It
Yeah.
does
It-
taste
yeah,
good.
so I
It
was
does.
having-
So she comes for a run carrying that bottle. And I said, what are you having? She said,
Yeah.
Coke, it's really nice. So I said, do you know how much sugar there is in it?
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
said, does it have sugar? I said, of course it does.
Yeah.
So it was half a bottle left. She didn't touch it.
Yeah.
Went back home, checked. And it was loaded with
It was
sugar.
loaded.
It was.
So So
So she
basically,
tells me that even in the house when she's not working out, she's going
I
around
was
sipping
having because
Coke.
I enjoyed it and I thought it's healthy and everything.
And next day she meets a group of runners. She says, "Kisi ko chahiye to I've got plenty."
I still
and
have.
just give it away because I'm not going to drink
So
it.
I didn't touch it after, but I really enjoyed it. I thought it's healthy, but definitely not.
It
I
does
have a
taste good.
very, very sweet
Now I
tooth.
think they have sugar-free tablets also because of.
But then it has these other
Yeah.
ingredients which are not.
But I
good
don't
for
think
you.
anything beats what you said because the kind of I've never heard like electrolytes ke liye you are drinking that
Yeah,
stuff,
yeah,
which
only
is
this.
which is really cool.
Only
Yeah, I think I'm going to try that for myself as well. But coming back to mental toughness, tell me what kind of I've started. So I'll share my experience. I've been into sports as well. I used to play basketball. Then I got into weightlifting. I mean, not weightlifting, just working out
Yeah.
in the gym. And then after a stage, it gets boring a little bit sometimes. So last year, I was also in a kind of difficult mental state. And so I decided that, I need to do something because I'm bored now of lifting weights. So I started running. So I decided I'm not going to do too much. I'm just going to do, say, 3 kilometers or 4 kilometers every day. And then it went up 3 ho gaya, to okay, let's do 4, and then 4 ho gaya, okay, 1 more kilometers, 5. So it got up to 5. And after the stage, I said, okay, 5 kilometers every day. So more or less 5 to 6 days a week, I started doing 4 to 5 kilometers every day. And it went on for 6 months. Then December last year, I decided I'm going to do a 5K every day. So 150 kilometers in 30 days. Like I'm not going to miss a single day. And I ended up finishing it in 19 days. So this was 150 kilometers in 19 days, which was great for me.
Which is good.
And my max distance was about 15 kilometers. That was my max distance that I covered in one single run. But that took a toll on, the amount of mental toughness I needed. Number one. Number two, also, of course, the body, starts speaking out loud. How do you have the mental toughness to do a 4 kilometer swim, 80 kilometers bike ride, and then a 41, like marathon distance run, 42 kilometers? How do you prepare mentally for that kind of a distance? What goes on? I want to understand what goes on inside your heads.
As I said, it takes a while, and one thing leads to another. Nobody would start with thinking that kind of distance. When I saw, the Ironman, when I found out about the Ironman race, there was no way I could imagine that. And then we started small. We started with an Olympic distance. We thought, let's try this out because it should be okay to swim 1500 meters, and 40 kilometers ride was nothing. It was because I had been riding a lot of long distance rides, then a 10-kilometer run was also nothing. So it was that one small step that we took towards it. And then, whenever you like, for example, you said you went up till 15 kilometers.
Yeah.
Now, when you reach 15 kilometers and what you felt during the last 3 kilometers, you would say, "Isse zyada nahi karni mujhe."
Yeah.
Right. So that happens with everybody.
Okay.
When I did my first couple of half marathons, the decision was I remember I was running my second half marathon in Mumbai.
Yeah.
And when we were close to the finish line, I saw the full marathoners starting their next 21 kilometers loop. And I was looking at them and I was thinking, there is never ever in my life that I'm going to do something that stupid. Because I was struggling at 19 kilometers. It's a mental game. So
Yeah.
when you know you have to run 21, 90, you'll want it to finish.
Yeah.
But if you have to run a 42 till 35, you won't even feel it. It was after 35 that you'll start feeling, the fatigue. So
what do you tell yourself when you are doing a long endurance race like this? What do you tell yourself in your head? Like,
I think it's about
are you
thinking
getting what
too
I'm
much.
trying to say?
Yeah.
Like, because for someone who does not do it, it's hard to imagine what kind of.
So you've got to look at it, in totality. You've got to understand that to attempt something like this cannot happen, at a spur of a moment. There's a long months of training that has gone in, right? So one, you doing certain distances without being, so tired or so helpless that you want to give up. One.
Yeah.
Two, you tell yourself the number of months that you've trained for, right? So obviously there are times when, your body really wants to give up and you say, enough of this madness, I want to stop, I don't want to do it again. But then you also have to add the fact that you've got to go back and tell people, right? So for example, you run a school. Now tomorrow you announce in your school that Dipen sir is going to run a half marathon in November.
Yeah.
You will tell yourself that.
True.
School jana hai, what will the children think?
True.
So there is some sort of responsibility also built in once you make a goal, you train
You're
towards
accountable
it.
to yourself.
Precisely.
and others.
Plus people around you.
Yeah.
You inspire
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
So then you also have that, how will I have to finish this for them if not for yourself?
Yeah, for me, I think it's more about that, I'm always like, I have this opportunity to do something. Like, whenever I'm like in the zone where I want to give up, very few people, are able to take out time from their lives to do
Yeah.
something like this. So I feel very, very grateful when I'm there. For my full Ironman, I was just breaking it up. So I was just focusing on the swim. I did the swim. It was actually like I forgot that I've done the swim and I was just focusing on the bike. Same thing when I was on the run. So if you keep thinking, oh, I've done so much, then it becomes very difficult. So for me, it was like staying in the moment. And I think that's when I was actually present, because I was like, okay, done. Now I'm here finishing this. And I think how he said, because it's a build up, because you're training for so long. So I had like a 4-kilometer swim in practice. So mentally I've done it. So it's about those barriers. Like you've done a 15 now. Maybe next time we meet, you're like, okay, I'm doing a half. Because it's about
Hopefully.
breaking those barriers.
Yeah,
So-
yeah. So I had to swim 3.8 in my Ironman. I went to Goa and did a 5-kilometer swim in the sea, just to get that distance
Yeah.
out of my head. So if I've swum 5 kilometers, I can do 3.8
Yeah.
surely.
So yeah, it's about, I
Makes
think
sense.
once you do it, you have that confidence in the end, and you've
So she
broken-
had a lot of open water fear
Yeah.
from before her Ironman event, and we were trying to decide what events should she register as a part of her training plan. So there was this Goa swimathon happening where I thought you should do 5. So she didn't want to. She said, "I'll manage. I don't want to go." But I had to literally
Yeah.
force her. I said, I had to drag her.
I
said,
think
"You
it's
have
it's
to
a
go."
blessing to have someone in your life who can push you during
Definitely.
these times, right? So maybe he's that blessing for you.
Yeah, he has been. So he pushed me. So we said registered for a 2-kilometer. I did for a 2K swim because I had not started swimming before this. So I go to Goa with no swimming practice. This is January or February. January. So no practice. I'm like 2B ho jaye, so it's like a big thing. And the first day we go with, he
So
was
the-
there.
the day before.
Yeah.
The day before the race. So she had to do a 2K. I also registered. I said, I'll just come along for the company. And a day before, I said, let's go out. Let's go out for a swim. You don't want the race day to be the first day of the swim. I had a couple of swimmer friends where we were staying. So there were 2 of them, Sameer and one more.
And there were kids.
Yeah. One of my friend was
Yeah.
with his kids, 2 kids. There was another swimmer. There was me and her.
वो पार्टी करने आए होंगे.
No,
नहीं,
the
वो
kids
सारे
were
racing में आते.
swimmers. Yeah.
Oh, wow,
That
okay.
was
Swimathon के लिए
the
थे.
most
They were
crazy
all
thing.
there for the swimathon.
Yeah.
So we said, okay, we'll go. So we said,
Well
let's go
done.
for about a kilometer or something. So the way you go in the sea is you go straight for a bit, so, until you lose the land under your feet. Once you are in deep enough water, and then you turn, and then you go parallel to the beach. So you don't go too far. So we all decided, okay, let's go, let's start. So these guys were good swimmers. I was a bad swimmer. She was
Not
at
even a
that-
swimmer.
This was the same year that she did her Ironman.
So I want to
So
do it
Before
to,
Ironman?
Before,
It was
before,
Ironman.
before.
So these guys went for a swim. I followed them, for about 200-300 meters. I was with them, and then I didn't see her. And when I turned back, she was right just after the beach, and I could just see hands like that.
Whoa.
So these guys went. So I
I-
swam back. I said, "What happens if I can't swim?"
I can't.
You
I
had a
forgot
panic
to.
attack?
She had she just couldn't figure out how to breathe, how to go.
I was like, I don't know how to breathe.
So I said, "Calm
forgot.
down. Let's just start with one." And then she did fine. Next day
Yeah.
she swam 2 kilometers.
Well done.
So we need the motivation. So definitely.
It is. I think. When you get that push from somebody who you look up to, and you know that they have done. Number one, they've gone through the same phase. Number two, they tell you that it is okay to feel this way because I have been through this as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So then you gain trust and you understand what they mean.
They say that it takes an army to do an Ironman. I read it somewhere. It's true, because you need support, you need friends, you need mentors. Family also plays a big role, because you're in a different zone. Like I used to come home, I needed my meal. Like I didn't have time to so small things actually compound and help you to do an event like that, because it takes a lot.
Do you have a pre-race ritual?
Not me.
You don't have a ritual for anything. You just get out of your car and start running and get the job done and come back home.
No, same. Yeah, I'm just
Not a
happy to
ritual.
be at the start line. I think that's a opportunity. That's all. Yeah.
Okay, so Now that we know what goes on, what goes in mentally to do the run like this, I want to ask you the other way around. What does a run do for you mentally? Like, how does it help you mentally? Because it has been a game changer for me personally. Tell me about what kind of effects. So there are a lot of problems in the world right now, and mental health is a big issue. And a lot of people don't realize it, but the best therapy is actually to sweat. Go and just go for a workout or go for a run or something. Tell me, how does running or working out help you mentally?
For me, it has always been a big stress buster. After a certain point, I just forget about everything. I even forget that I'm running.
Hmm. And that's what meditating is in a way,
Yeah,
isn't it?
So it's meditation. It's stress buster for me. I stopped thinking about work, about any of the issues of daily life. That has been the biggest thing for me. So there's something called a runner's high.
Hmm.
So that's what you achieve when you've been running for a long distance. Is when you just forgotten. It's just one feet after the other, and you're just going on, and then you suddenly it strikes you that you've been going on for 4 kilometers without a thought. So I
That's
think that's a big
peace.
thing. I can't see that achieving that any other way.
No.
I can't meditate or I can't do any
Yeah.
other thing.
That's meditation for you.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
what.
Yeah. What about you?
Yeah,
Shivangi?
same. I think for me, firstly, we talked about the me time. So, you get out of, because when I'm working, I'm interacting with a lot of people.
Yeah.
Because it's, so, it's like with me or with my friends, if I'm running,
Yeah.
we're having a chat. That's different. I think it's taught me a lot of patience because, when you're for so long, like I was, because it was basketball was a very power based sport. So, you're very, aggressive in some way. So I think it's given me that patience, and it's all about, teaches you process. It's all about staying consistent. So those things which actually helped me in my work also and otherwise as well. When I'm now looking at a situation, it's more from a calm perspective rather than, jumping onto conclusions. So I think this is because I've been during endurance. I think that's helped me a lot here. And he talked about the runner's high. I think when I was finishing my Ironman, I've seen photos, videos of me crossing the finish line, but I don't remember anything. My sister was standing there. I don't remember it. So I think that's one of the experiences that, people talk about.
And this hangover stays for much longer than the other one.
Definitely.
Because you don't forget it ever, right?
Yeah.
The kind of
Yeah.
feeling that you have. Also does, like for me, it is my best ideas related to work. Even when I've done something wrong in my life, talking to myself, telling myself you are not right here, and kind of therapy sessions happen during run. So taking the therapy session away, do you think you get the best of your ideas while you're running sometimes?
I hear that a
Work
lot. It
related?
doesn't work with me.
No. For me,
I
it's
don't think
always
about
during
work
runs.
or ideas or anything.
Wow.
No, but for me, I think it does because I think you're in a way you're disconnected from firstly technology because even though sometimes I'm listening to music or podcast, mostly I'm running without. So you're disconnected there. You're with yourself. So it gives you time to think. So for me, definitely I sometimes if I'm running in the morning, I'm thinking about work. So I'll get an idea or if I'm having conversation with somebody when I'm running, so I can think of. So I think it does help me. But he's right. There are some people who don't.
Yeah, for me.
Has it have you seen an upward increment in terms of your work since you've gotten into fitness, or has no impact?
No. It has had impact on me psychologically. I am calmer. I'm happier.
But does that help you in work then? Of course it does.
Probably it does, but I don't have any noticeable or tangible numbers to talk of.
Hmm.
But the kind of mental that state that I've been through while running is something that I cannot imagine. When I did the 100 kilometers in Jaisalmer, until 50 kilometers, it was a desert road. All that there was on two sides of the road was desert and windmills. So until 50 kilometers, by the time it started getting dark, there were you could see runners ahead, behind, because out of 200 runners that went for that event, 150 were for 50 kilometers. So there was a handful of 100 kilometers runners. So it's after the 50-kilometer point when the sun is set, there's only moonlight. There is no road light in Jaisalmer towards the village. So and then there are no runners. So the fast ones go ahead, the slow ones get left behind. So it's very, very
50
unlikely.
kilometers is already
Yeah.
done.
It's very, very unlikely that you unless you've trained with somebody in a way that we're going to race together, it's unlikely. So I had nobody to run with throughout the 100 kilometers. For the first 50, I saw people. After 50, I stopped seeing people. So you're running on a road with nothing in sight for 50 kilometers.
Wow.
So the kind of thoughts that go through your head, then you can't get them in normal course of life. I can't forget those times. There was a point when I was scared if I've lost the way. I could see nothing nowhere. So then after half an hour of running, because I didn't know what to do,
Yeah.
you can't
You just
even
kept
turn
going.
back. You just kept going and you were hoping that you're on the right route. You don't know. Because there are no signs. They had these marks on the road, so you just had to follow them. So there was always a risk that you miss a turn.
Yeah.
So there were two people coming on a motorbike. After half an hour of me wondering whether I'm on the right route, and all I could ask them was, "आगे और लोग भाग रहे हैं क्या?" बोले हाँ. That's when I knew that all right. So I haven't lost my way. So it's that's desolate. There's no sound, no sight, nothing. So you can't experience that any other way.
It is beautiful. Also, as I said, that when you are talking about, when you are explaining the scenery around you while you're running on an empty road alone, desert on both the sides, just moon in the sky,
Windmills.
windmills, and oh wow, this is
It's
just
incredible, actually.
it is
It's incredible.
just to imagine.
I finished
also.
at 3:35 or 3:30 a.m. something.
Yeah, morning.
Started at 12, finished at 3:30.
For me, it's since ever since I've started. Well, I've been into sports since ever, but when you're younger, sports is more of a competition sort of a thing in school, right? When you grow older, it becomes a fitness issue, right? I need to stay fit, vanity issue, right? I need to look good in a certain way, like you mentioned. And then there comes a stage when all of these things fade, and it gets important, becomes important for your mental health and staying sharp. So
Yeah.
for me, it has. I think I'm starting to enter the third phase now in my life, where it has become more of a mental health. But then I also, the sportsman in me also keeps on challenging himself. Like when I saw you run this morning, I got fired. I'm like, I'm not doing 5K today. I'm gonna do a 10K. Otherwise, I'm not gonna see her today, which I had to. So I got it done. So it brings in that competitive energy in you. It is just incredible how magical it is.
Yeah. So I've been
Yeah.
there, right? I've been in the competitive side where, it was all about winning and basketball. Delhi University is quite big in the sense with sports.
Yeah.
And then now that I'm here, even though of course I'm competing to get better, but it's just for myself. Like I have my goals, like I want to do an Ironman or get faster, but it's not that I have to do it better than somebody else. It's for myself. So I think that gives you a sense of a lot that you want to focus on. It's for yourself. Even if say I like today's session, I mentioned that I had to do 4 intervals. I could manage 3, but it's okay. Had this been the case in school, I would have just gone crazy. Like I couldn't have taken it. So I think it's about learning as you go. So this transition
For
is
me,
quite
I was
nice.
never into the competitive thing. I started way too late. Probably towards the end of second phase, but it makes a big difference. I mean, until last year, August, we were almost off training. We'd
Yeah.
done Jaisalmer, she'd done 50, and we were not getting the right motivation. And then we joined two of our friends, one of whom was training to improve her timings in a full marathon. So we've known each other for a long time. So 4 of us started training together. We started on the 16th of August. We did our first run together, 4 of us. And then we trained together until February. this year.
February. Yeah.
And in the February marathon, all 4 of us got our best times ever. It was only
How old were you at this time when you got your best time ever?
this year.
This year.
February this year, I got my best time in a full marathon.
So at 52,
Yeah, I got my
you got your best
time.
marathon time.
best time.
Well done. Now that's getting me fired up again.
Yeah. And it happened because, see, alone and just the two of us, we were not motivated. We just found 2 more people to train with. We started training with them.
Yeah,
Or
makes a
it
big
helped all
difference.
4 of us
Yeah.
for sure because everybody got.
It's crazy. People at 40 they say 30 like my age guys they say यार अभी तो घुटने ऐसे होने लग गए अभी एज ऐसी हो गई 40 पे they like and 52
So
you're
my
doing your best.
first half marathon ever was when I was 39. उससे पहले कुछ
Yeah, and when Ironman as a sport, so because they've got age categories, 30 under is like very few people who do it. It's majorly 50
Endurance,
plus.
you will see younger people
Yeah.
would always go for these fast, sports.
Hmm.
The endurance sports, marathons, if you look at, the international athletes,
Yeah.
this is all popular amongst, the middle age plus.
It's never too late to start.
No, I have seen
Definitely.
75-year people, running Ironman.
Yeah, before when I finished, there was somebody who was, I think, 60 plus, and she finished before I did my event. And they are great.
I know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So this is the finish line, and I see her, and I'm like, wow. So because your age is also like, the age bracket is visible. So I think a lot of people do it. It's just that. So this is because now
It's
I'm.
also a mental block, isn't it? In India, especially old.
That's what I was
ages,
coming to. Like
yeah.
my parents, they were not into any kind of fitness, and now they're like, regular walking, running a bit. So it's the change of mindset. I could have told them because I have people who've been told that आप 50 हो गए हो अब तो knees चली जाएगी, all that. But I think it's the other way. You have to make it stronger. So it's about just changing the mindset. Age is just literally a number.
Okay, so before we end, on an ending note, I want both of you to give one advice each to a 40-year-old, 40 to 45-year-old man or a woman watching this, and to a youngster, teenager, say from in their teens or early 20s, watching this, who are not into fitness and who see these things as very far away from them. What advice would you give them?
So I have in my last few years of running helped, supported, motivated, and trained a lot of people, ranging from 20 years to 50 years. I recently,
Yeah.
I recently came across a colonel in the army who's retired from army and he's in the private life now, and he said, Amit, the only thing I can't do is I can't run.
Okay.
I said, sir, you can. No, I can't run. I have this, I have knee issue, and I go out of breath.
Yeah.
So I said, आप
थोड़ा सा पास में
हाँ,
इसको mic पे,
so
yeah.
4.5 महीने बाद में दिल्ली मैराथन हाफ मैराथन थी. I said, sir, आप register करो. I'll make sure that you run. So he is a couple of years elder to me. I think he's 55, 56. I
Okay.
think, I'm not very sure. So he said, "तुम मरवाएगा मुझे. I can't do any of this. I can't run 2 kilometers." He used to run when he joined the army.
Yeah.
But then over a period of time, he had some health issues, and because one of which he retired.
Yeah.
So he said, there is no way I can run. He registered for it. I started training him. I started giving him a plan. Then I followed it up on a daily basis. Aaj kaisa raha? How was your run? This, that. He got injured on the way in the middle of the training. But then again, being an army officer, he is very headstrong.
Mentally tough,
He's
yeah.
mentally tough. He said, अब कर लिया तो अब करना ही है. He ran a 21 kilometer last year.
Last
Last year, October. He ran a 21 kilometers. So my only advice is I started out when I was 39 and I had zero sports in school, zero sports in college, zero sports ever. No fitness, no gym, nothing. I started out at 39 just to kind of not have a paunch, just try to stay in shape.
Yeah.
And that's when I started running. I got hooked onto it. And I'm 52 now. This year I got my best time in my full marathon.
And it's never too late.
It's never too late. You just have to start right. You just have to start slow. Don't rush into it. In fact, I'm helping somebody train for her first half marathon, and she sounded very excited about doing lots of events and lots of runs. And I was trying to go slow. It's your first year. You need to be slow. You need to take time. You need to go gradual. I think that's important.
So do you think one very important advice for a 40-plus-year-old man or a woman is to maybe when they start at this time, they should take help first from an expert?
Yeah,
also?
they should.
Because then
Generally, you
your
tend to
injury.
get carried away and
Yeah.
you tend to end up.
So
doing
ask an
something
expert
wrong.
first.
Ask
Yeah.
somebody who knows.
Yes.
And the general guideline is what Shivangi said: start with run, walk, and then gradually increase. So after a month, you should increase no more than 10% of your mileage. So if you're running, let's say 15 kilometers in a week. Right, so for a couple of weeks you do that, and then increase no more than 10% from that 15. People, what they tend to do is they tend to enjoy it, and then when they start loving it, एक week 15 किया, दूसरे week 25, अगले week 40, and then उसके बाद खत्म.
Yeah.
So go slow, take some advice, and of course it's never too late to start.
Awesome. What about you for teenagers and early
I think
20s?
just focus on, taking out time for health, because it's not just about how you look, because a lot of teenagers I know, especially
Man and women,
both,
right?
both,
Yeah,
even
yeah.
because I come across a lot of, social media is actually a big thing, which can be both good and bad.
Yeah.
So it's so much focus about how you're looking. There are so many filters being used. So, just don't get influenced by that. Think of health as, as important as spending time on your phone. And it's not about that, you're doing this to reach a certain, you don't have to be an athlete, or you don't have to be chasing numbers. Just move 30 minutes. When they ask me, because I am into this, I said, if you're not doing anything, just move. That is going to, make you healthy. So
Yeah.
it's not complicated. Just go for the simple things. And yeah, it has to be a part of life, like how you wake up every day, eat your food. I think it's very important for us to inculcate fitness, being healthy as, a daily routine, and not something that, how he said, overdoing. Even I know people at 16, 17, they'll like, go crazy, do excess of something, and then just, burn out.
Yeah.
So I think it's about anything you do, be patient and do it slow, step by step.
And I also think that when you start at this stage, you should take advice from someone who's an expert, because you don't know
You
anything
don't know,
about
and
it,
don't
right?
compare yourself. I think that's very common, where somebody's running. So I see this a lot in Central Park, and it's sometimes very funny. When I started, so I used to run, and then people would cross me, and they'll be faster than. There were times when I would be like, oh my god. So I used to, like, run fast and try to, have this general
Yeah.
competition. But now I don't do it. But
Yeah.
I see that a lot. So don't compare. Like, if you are running in Central Park, for example, there might be somebody who might be faster. So you don't have to like chase after them.
I know how that feels.
So yeah, so get motivated like how you did, and rather than like, so I think those small things go a long way, where you don't have to compare what somebody else is doing, because their journey might be different.
And also it for teenagers and young people who are in school or college, uh, from a career perspective, it's, if you go out for a workout or for a run or something, it is actually good for your studies also, because
Absolutely.
a lot of
It'll help
studies show that your mental activity, your focus, everything improves. Yeah. Awesome, guys, this has been amazing. I've still got like hundreds of questions left for you, but it will be too much. And but this has been an absolute pleasure to have you.
Thank
Feeling
you.
is mutual.
Yes,
It's
really
been
enjoyed it.
wonderful. Yeah, really good.
I mean,
It's discussing something that we're both passionate about. So it's
yeah, and
actually
I
good
love
fun.
it as well. I think I've had a discussion like this for the first time, because not a lot of people around me, or not everyone around me, is into this in such a deep level, till such a deep level. So thank you so much for coming
Thank you for
Thank you
having
for,
us over.
yeah,
Thank
thanks
you.
a lot.
and
We had a wonderful
and
time.
and sharing your knowledge.
Thank you.
Cheers, guys.
Thank you.
Awesome.